New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
The reality is that Israel is one of our greatest allies. And for people to think otherwise, you fall in one of two categories. You're either ignorant or you simply hate Jews.
Congresswoman, this is also a choice by Senate Democrats to not vote to open the government. Yes, it is.
All right, guys. So as we know, Tuesday was Election Day, and the Democrats absolutely swept the Republicans in every major race. And honestly, I think there's something deeper going on here. So just think about it for a second. The Democrats managed to win across the board while the government is literally shut down, while they're holding up the government. And I can tell you for a fact, one of the reasons why this is happening is because people think that the government is shut down because of Donald Trump. They think that it is the Republicans' fault. And the Democrats, instead of offering their constituents anything, any real solutions, any type of anything, they just blame Donald Trump, and people believe them. But what they don't realize is that the Republicans have come to the table multiple times. They came to the table, they came to the table, and they came to the table again. And the Democrats refused to reopen the government, which they could, but they won't, because they are being stubborn and using it as leverage to push what they want. I just want you guys to go ahead and take a look at this clip. It is an interaction between CNN's host, Jake Tapper, and a different Democrat representative from New Mexico. I want you guys to see how he tries to ask her about this, and she basically just shifts the focus right back onto Donald Trump and the Republicans. Go ahead and take a listen to this, guys.
Democratic senators from New Mexico, your home state, vote to open the government so that these SNAP funds are not at risk?
Let me be clear. The administration is choosing to starve American children with money that they already have appropriated.
I'm not applauding their tactics.
By the White House. Well, this is a choice by the White House.
This is also, Congresswoman, this is also a choice by Senate Democrats to not vote to open the government. Yes, it is. I understand why they're doing it. They're doing it because they want Medicaid funds restored. They're doing it because they want Obamacare premiums to be extended past the end of the year. I understand the reasoning.
Sir, let me just be clear. The money for contingency plans is sitting there. That is why the states are suing. The White House is withholding funds from
2 to 3 weeks worth of SNAP funds. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it may not be a big deal to you, but let me tell you that for the grandparents, for grandparents that literally are feeding their children,
my point is that it's a short-term solution.
In those accounts,
it's a short-term.
At the end of the day, people need to be able to feed their families, and Saturday is when those funds run out.
If you feel so strongly, Congresswoman, why not ask the Senate Democrats from New Mexico to vote to open the government so that the SNAP funds...
Sir, I am here in the House of Representatives. It is shut down. I am fighting to get the government reopened. I am fighting to get funding put back into SNAP that is already existent, and I am fighting for the American people. I am here. But show me a single Republican that is here. Not a single one is here to make sure that Americans are fed on Saturday. That is why I am here.
Now, you know, if CNN is asking the tough questions, there is a problem here. They're tired of the lying as well, and we're going to talk about all of these elections and why I think that the Republicans got swept. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I am Carmen JC. If you're new here, make sure you hit the like or the subscribe button. Or if you want to support the channel, hit the super thanks or the buy me a coffee link below. Also, make sure you guys go ahead and drop a comment to help us stay in the algorithm. And plus, you guys know I love to hear what you guys have to say. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so where do we start? Well, we can start with the fact that the Republicans just got their asses handed to them completely. They lost every major race across the country. And I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to the coverage on that. So go ahead and take a listen.
A Democratic sweep in high-profile elections nationwide. In New York City, Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani capping a stunning political rise, becoming the first Muslim mayor of the nation's largest city.
Together, we will usher in a generation of change.
The 34-year-old state assemblyman running a grassroots campaign, focusing on rising prices, including proposals like free buses and childcare and city-owned grocery stores. Defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who ran as an independent, and said Mamdani would wreck the city's economy, also focusing on his past criticism of Israel, and previous calls for defunding the police, which Mondami says he no longer supports. President Trump threatening to withhold funds from the city if Mondami won, and endorsing Cuomo late in the race. Last night, Mondami addressing him directly.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
The president also a central figure in New Jersey, where Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill becomes the state's first Democratic woman governor, beating Trump-backed Jack Ciattarelli. In a race that was not as close as expected, Sherrill, a former Navy pilot and federal prosecutor, drawing parallels between her opponent and Trump throughout the race.
With this vote, you guys just scream from the rooftops.
In Virginia, Democrat and former CIA officer Abigail Spanberger making history as the state's first woman to be elected governor. Spanberger focusing on the economy while promising to stand up to President Trump's moves to slash the federal workforce.
In 2025, Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship.
President Trump trying to distance himself from the election results, posting overnight Trump wasn't on the ballot and shutdown were the 2 reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight, according to pollsters. And while last night's results provide Democrats momentum heading into the 2026 midterms, no race last night will have as big an impact as the vote in California. And that's where voters overwhelmingly approved a plan for mid-decade redistricting, which could net Democrats as many as 5 seats in next year's election. This move, a direct result of President Trump's push to get red states to redraw their districts with the goal of winning more GOP seats.
All right, so
Savannah?
This is not good at all for the Republican Party. And to be honest, I think this has a lot to do with their priorities being completely out of order. We're out here more worried about foreign policies, about what's going on overseas, while people right here in America can't afford groceries, gas, and rent. People are exhausted, they're struggling, and the party that's supposed to represent them is acting like a global charity instead of an American one. Just look at the Argentina bailout. Trump literally said he'd bail out Argentina for $40 billion, and you know how that sounds to everyday Americans? It sounds like a slap in the face, because if you've got $40 billion to throw at Argentina, then you must have the money to help your own people, actual Americans who are out here drowning under inflation and high interest rates. And it's not just that. Days before the election, you had the Republican Jewish Coalition Conference in Vegas, and most of the people didn't even take a second to highlight what was actually happening in this country. Instead, they chose to make it all about anti-Semitism in Israel, not the economy, not the inflation, not the border security, not the voters who are fed up. And I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to a montage of clips, all of these people on the stage with the microphone and with the attention, and not a single one of them talked about what actually matters to Americans. Go ahead and take a listen.
I want to be clear about something. If you want to be anti-Semitic, there's already one political party that features that. Our side cannot tolerate anti-Semitism.
Because it's easy to talk about anti-Semitism on the left. I want to talk about the dark force rising on our side.
We're facing a rising tide of anti-Semitism in this country. We are seeing Jewish Americans harassed, assaulted, and targeted for violence at an alarming and unprecedented rates.
The reality is that Israel is one of our greatest allies. And for people to think otherwise, you fall in one of 2 categories. You're either ignorant or you simply hate Jews.
And like I said before, I'm not with you guys 10%, 50%. I will always be the voice for the people in Israel. I will always stand behind the country of Israel, the one and only, Floyd Money Mayweather. In Israel, I will always be here for you guys when you guys don't have a voice.
I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes.
The Republican Party and the most pro-Israel president in the history of the United States will continue to fight anti-Semitism and protect the Jewish people and stand firmly and decisively with Israel.
I will say, if we wake up 5 years down the road and we've lost our party, if both parties have now embraced hatred of Israel, we will have lost our country.
What do you mean we don't cancel people? We canceled David Duke. Donald Trump canceled David Duke. We canceled Pat Buchanan. We canceled the John Birch Society. We canceled Joseph Sobran. We canceled pornography on TV. We cancel stuff all the damn time.
And that right there is where they dropped the ball, because while the Republicans were distracted, Democrats was busy making people feel like they care. And that is the key word, feel. They didn't offer better solutions. They offered better emotions. One thing that the left does is the left understands marketing. They understand storytelling. And you know what I noticed? It's starting to feel like the right is copying the left's tactics, just doing a bad job at it. Those signs that they had at this Republican Jewish conference that said Tucker Carlson is not MAGA, yeah, that is embarrassing. It actually reminds me when Trump was addressing Congress during the State of the Union and Democrats were holding up those signs calling him a liar and saying false, acting so dramatic for the cameras. It's the same energy. It's the same cringe. And the whole Tucker Carlson is not MAGA movement gave the same exact vibe. It seems like performative outrage. It looks like they care more about Tucker Carlson and anti-Semitism than they actually care about the American people and their grievances. And that is the problem right there. Republicans are out here copying the left's emotional theater instead of focusing on truth, results, and the people who actually put them into office. So while the GOP is out here talking about Israel and anti-Semitism, they're forgetting about the American people who actually care about childcare, jobs, and healthcare, especially while the government is shut down. And even if the Democrats are lying, they're speaking the language of emotion and what people vote on. These elections made it painfully clear people aren't voting for results anymore. They're voting for who makes them feel seen. And right now, the Republican Party is not making people feel seen. All right, so we have to get into Mamdani, a self-described democratic socialist who managed to take New York. And let's be honest, this win for him is huge for the Muslim world and for the people who want handouts and free stuff. They are loving this because the truth is socialism sounds great until the bill shows up. And in this case, the bill is always paid by the American taxpayers. Now, Brian Donald had this exchange on CNN, and I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to him talk about Mamdani and his socialist aspirations, because I think he raised a few really good points. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
When you put in communist and yes, communist policies, that's what Zoran Mamdani is talking about.
He's not a communist. He's a democratic socialist. He says he's democratic
I can't tell what the difference is.
Well, he can describe
Explain what the difference is.
He can describe the differences for you. The socialism is not the same basis of communism in this country. You know that quite
The
well.
man wants to create government-run grocery stores. He wants free transportation, both of which are impossible to do. Because how
that communism is a trigger word to try to undermine all of his policies. He's not a. He says he's a
I don't need to undermine his policies. His policies undermine himself.
Well,
because they've never worked. Here's all I want him to do. Tell me where they've ever worked. They've never worked. He knows that. I knows that. But what he's trying to do is promise everybody something that they can't have. And the truth is there is no free lunch, just like there's no free bus. Because you know what happens when you have a free bus? There's nobody there to fix it or to drive it. He knows that. I know that. You know that. America does know it. And it's unfortunate that the city of New York, my former home city, is probably going to have to go through this.
Now, I completely agree with Byron Donalds here when he says, where has socialism worked? What are we blueprinting this off of? Because if this is your big idea, how is it supposed to work here if it has failed everywhere else? And quite frankly, why would we want to turn America into a socialist country when people all over the world die trying to come here and live the American dream? People fight for this country. They fight to be here. They risk their lives to touch this soil. And we're supposed to believe the solution is to become more like other countries that they're escaping from. Make it make sense. We are a free capitalistic society, and you might not love every part of capitalism, but it's still the best system in the world, and it's the reason why America leads in innovation, opportunity, and power. Now, when it comes to Mamdani himself, he ran one of the most relentless grassroots campaigns in the race. He was visible, active, and he made people feel like he cared, even if he really doesn't. And that's what the Democrats do better than anyone else. They sell emotion. Meanwhile, the Republicans are out here trying to sell logic to people who are voting with their heart. You cannot fact check feelings. Now, when it came to Spanberger down in Virginia, she brought out Obama, and Obama hasn't been president for years, but his presence still gives the Democrats that emotional trust factor. It's nostalgic for them. It's like a political love song at this point. Even if it's performative, it works because it makes people feel stable again. Now let's look at the Republican. Winsome Sears had little to no energy on the campaign trail. The enthusiasm was completely gone. Now, on top of that, Trump didn't back her early. And when he finally did, it was kind of too late. It was too impersonal. And let's be honest, he didn't even say her name. How can we really call an endorsement if people don't even know who you're really talking about? The GOP looked disorganized while the Democrats looked unified. And yeah, that's partly because of all of the infighting. But I want you guys to go ahead and take a look at how Donald Trump actually did his endorsement. I've shown this clip before, I said that already, but I'm going to show you again just so you can see how little energy there was behind this whole thing. And I know Winsome Sears and Donald Trump don't exactly get along, but that's neither here nor there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the clip.
With the lieutenant
well,
governor?
I think the Republican candidate is very good, and I think she should win because the Democrat candidate's a disaster. So I haven't been too much involved in Virginia. I love the state. I did very well in the state. But I will tell you, I think the Republican candidate is excellent, and I think the Democrat candidate is a disaster. I mean, I watched her in the debate. She couldn't answer the most basic question.
So obviously he's talking about Winsome Sears, but come on, that was not the kind of endorsement that's going to get people out of their chairs to go vote. And I think Brett Cooper said it best. She nailed this dynamic perfectly. I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to what Brett Cooper had to say. So go ahead and take a listen.
Like Donald Trump can be in his gold-plated New York penthouse, but he also looks totally comfortable in a trash truck. He looks totally comfortable working the fry line at McDonald's. And I see the same thing in people like Mamdani. And I know you might be going like, oh, they're not the same. But this goes back to what we were talking about, especially at the beginning of the year, about authenticity. And how I saw a lot of Republicans laughing about AOC and saying she's never going to amount to anything. She's going to be so easy to beat. I wouldn't really say that because she has a way that she can connect with voters. She is relatable to millions and millions of Americans. And the same goes for Mamdani. I mean, I have been in New York for 24 hours at this point, and my TikTok is now just flooded. I think the New York algorithm is sending me all of these videos. I am seeing him everywhere. He's doing Tai Chi with grandmas at, assisted living facilities. He's at the taxi cab, pickup at LaGuardia Airport. He's talking with everyone. He's doing the politician thing. He's kissing babies. He's laughing. He's smiling. And the thing that stood out to me is that he genuinely looks like he loves it. He genuinely looks like he loves his constituents and loves New York. He's happy to be doing this. I don't see that with Cuomo. I didn't see that with Kamala. Like Kamala and people like Biden and Gavin Newsom, they have this general disdain for their constituents. They have a general disdain and I would say like uppityness. I don't even know if that's the right word. That's not the most mature word to use in this sense, but it's like they're looking down their noses at all of us. And I don't really see that with Mamdani. I didn't see that with Donald Trump. And so if he does win tomorrow night, I think this will just be even more evidence that authenticity matters right now. Again, that politics is really about personality right now, that it's less about policies and more about personality. And it's about charisma. And voters want somebody that they can trust, that they can relate to. And I think a lot of people are ignoring the fact that Mamdani is a socialist. I think that they might not even know or they don't even care because he is giving off the vibe that he loves what he does, that they can relate to him, that they can trust him. Again, it's the same feeling that Donald Trump gave me when he ran in this last election.
Now, I completely agree with Brett's assessment. The Democrats have mastered the emotional playbook. They know how to sound empathetic, relatable, and grounded, even when they're the ones that's causing the chaos. And honestly, that's what's turning over voters. The Republicans look stiff and disconnected, while the Democrats look unified and emotionally aware, even if they're lying straight through their teeth. Now, I want to show you guys one more thing about Mamdani, because this moment right here is exactly why he won. During the New York mayoral debate, all of the candidates were asked, as mayor of New York, your first foreign visit, where would you go? Let's go ahead and take a listen to everyone's response to that. Take a listen.
The first foreign visit by a mayor of New York is always considered significant. Where would you go first? Left to right, Ms. Adams.
First visit, I would visit the Holy Land.
Mr. Cuomo?
Given the hostility and the anti-Semitism that has been shown in New York, I would go to Israel.
Mr. Tilson, where would you go?
Yeah, I'd make my fourth trip to Israel, followed by my fifth trip to Ukraine, two of our greatest allies fighting on the front lines of the global war on terror.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel?
as mayor?
I will be doing, as the mayor, I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not as a Jewish state?
As a state with equal rights.
He won't
Not as a
say it
Jewish
has a
state.
right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very
And
clear.
his answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that.
That's what he was trying to say.
No. Unlike you, I answer questions very directly.
All right.
My goal would be to take my first trip to Israel. My wife's life work in this area means a lot to our family, and it could coincide with my young son Miles' bar mitzvah, if you'd like to have his bar mitzvah.
Okay, but
Now, that one simple, patriotic, and local line hit people right in the gut. Because after months of watching our politicians cry about every border but our own, people are tired. They are tired of seeing American leaders prioritize foreign countries while their own cities fall apart. Mondani's answer made him sound loyal to the American people that he actually represents. Now, Mark Dice had a pretty interesting take on this. And you know, Mark Dice, he doesn't hold back. So I'm going to go ahead and read you what he had to say on this and something that people is scared to bring up. It reads, New York City just elected a communist Muslim immigrant for their new mayor, largely because of a massive number of foreign-born residents there, over 37%, which begs the question, should immigrants to this country be allowed to hold public office? They can't be president because the founding fathers didn't want someone who had allegiances to foreign countries to be in a position of power. But they neglected to foresee the same thing would happen in other offices like Congress and mayors in New York, not to mention other offices like governor and even city councils and school boards. We know that a shocking number of legal immigrants don't assimilate and aren't interested in being Americans, supporting our traditions or values. Many come here to exploit our country, to undermine everything that our country was built on, and to change it for the benefit of others in their same ethnic group. So why do we forbid people who weren't born here from being the president, but allow them to hold every other public office which wields power and influence over our country, communities, and culture? It's probably too late to change that now, but a major oversight of the founding fathers and the early Americans. Now, I completely agree with what Mark Dice is saying because, honestly, I just don't think people who come over here as immigrants should be holding office. Office should be held by natural-born citizens, period. We should have more rights and representation as people born into this country than those who just came here yesterday, especially for families like mine, people who have been here for hundreds of years. We've built this nation, and Mark is spot on here. This is something that Americans need to be talking about seriously, not just in passing or when it's convenient. So I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to part of Mondani's acceptance speech and just ask yourself, how comfortable does this make you feel as an American? Go ahead and take a listen.
My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
Few moments later.
Because New Yorkers deserve a government they can trust. On January 1st, I will be your mayor. New Year's Day and a new era for this city. Oh, and one more thing. Remember how I told you a few months ago to stop sending us money? You can start again.
Now, I think what really bothers me the most about this, beyond the socialism, beyond the politics, is the immigrant thing. Because let's be honest, we're already having a massive immigration problem in this country. And yes, a lot of it is illegal immigrants. But even when you look at places like Dearborn, Michigan, with the overwhelming number of Muslims there, it does not represent American culture anymore. People should be coming here to assimilate, like Mark and I said, not to import their culture, their laws, their customs, and then expect Americans to bow down to it. That is not how this country works. If you love your home country so much, stay in your home country. And if you want to practice certain traditions or religions, do it privately, within your own home, somewhere with people who share those same values. But this country, this is a Christian country, and we should be proud of that. We should be putting that first. Instead, we've been bending over backwards to accommodate everyone else, even when it seems like we're losing ourselves in the process. We can't keep bowing down to people who come here and ruin this country the same way they ruined the ones they fled from. And that is all I'm going to say about that. Now, we all know this election wasn't about policy. It was about feelings. The Democrats know exactly how to manipulate emotion, and the Republicans still think logic alone can win people over. It can't. People are voting for comfort, not competence. And quite frankly, the Democrats didn't win because they're right. They won because they sound relatable. They talk like they understand the struggle, even when they're the ones causing it. Meanwhile, the GOP is out here lecturing voters about global politics while Americans can't afford eggs. It is embarrassing. The whole thing proves the right is losing the culture war, not because the left is stronger, but because the Republicans refuse to speak human. They don't connect, they don't listen, and they keep prioritizing everyone but the people who put them in office. The left has learned how to sell fake hope. The right hasn't even learned how to sell reality. And if they don't fix it, they'll keep losing, not because Democrats are better, but because Democrats are louder. Americans are exhausted. They want someone who fights for them, not for Israel, not for immigrants, not for headlines, but for them. And until the GOP remembers that, this cycle of losing will keep repeating. Because right now, Americans are worried about how they're going to put food on the table. And whether you agree with it or not, that is the real problem that many Americans find deeply concerning. We don't just represent Republicans, we represent America. And it's time for the GOP to start acting like it. I am Carmen JC. If you're new here, make sure you hit the like or the subscribe button. Or if you want to support the channel, hit the super thanks or the buy me a coffee link below. Also, make sure you guys go ahead and drop a comment for the algorithm. You guys know I love to hear what you guys have to say. And just so you guys know, I'm not going to be reading comments today. I am so sorry. I promise I'll do it on the next one. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time.
I'm breaking chains, freeing minds, it's a time to rise. Conscious culture in my veins, yeah, we see through the lies. They telling stories, trying to mold what we thinking inside. But I'm cutting through illusions, showing truth worldwide. They trying to box us in, but we step out the line. Redefining who we are, no longer falling behind. I see the games they playing, how they shape our design. So I'm speaking for the thinkers who refuse to be blind.